Okay, the first area that we're going to look at is the block area. The block area will have usually two types of blocks. There will be wooden blocks and some other blocks. In those areas, we have blocks that stack and slide. So that means if you push them over, they will fall all over the place. That is a block. Things like Legos and bristle blocks are considered manipulatives in our world. The wooden blocks are known as unit blocks. All of the blocks within the unit set are based off of this one block. So we begin to talk about things like triangles. Triangle is a quarter of the unit block. The square is half of the unit. So we begin to look at fractions. And we also get a lot of science and math out of block area. Things like how to balance blocks. We get symmetry by building two columns that look similar to each other. So those are some of the things that we learn in blocks. When you put blocks away, all of our shelving is labeled for the children so that they can be responsible for the upkeep of the room. So we have traced the blocks and made labels for each one so that the children are now classifying and sorting the blocks, so that makes cleanup time also a learning time. In the block area, you will also find cars and people and various signs and things that will help children learn to read. So we have stop signs and things that will help children learn literacy as well. All children who come into the block area will bring their name tag, and each classroom has a space to put their name tag. That tells the children if this area is open, or if they must choose something else until this area becomes open. Next, we'll look at dramatic play. Dramatic play is often set up like your kitchen. So we have the refrigerator, a cabinet, and a stove, usually within that area. And usually there's a table that we can set up. And we have various containers and types of food that we can talk about food, and the children prepare many meals here. They also have other opportunities, like to pretend other adult roles, such as firefighters, restaurant owners, and grocery stores. So please come in this area and talk to the children about what they're eating, what they're making, and oftentimes when we have young children, they sometimes get stalled stirring the pot, but they never serve it, so you can help them get to the next level. You can also do a lot of writing in dramatic play by writing grocery lists and helping children identify foods from circulars and recipes. The phone book is also a great lesson. So if they want to order a pizza, you open up the phone book to the yellow pages and find a pizza and pretend to call the number. If they want to call Aunt Susie, they open up the phone book and just point to a number by somebody's name and pretend to call Aunt Susie. So you can identify those kinds of things and help children with those skills as well. So there's a lot of literacy and language in dramatic play. This is the science and math area. And in this area, we have things where we measure, and we have things like the scale, where we talk about how the different cups weigh. We also have measuring tapes and thermometers and magnifying glasses, and of course bug catchers, that we can talk to the children about the world around them and what they're experiencing. We also do many experiments with colors and mixing colors. So we have color paddles, and the children can put them together and try to make various colors. So we have a lot of different things that go on here during the year, because we want them to identify with the seasons and talk about those kinds of things as well. So there's lots of math, lots of counting, lots of size things, and lots of or science activities that go on in this area. Of course, everyone's favorite is usually art. In here we give the children a lot of creativity by having a lot of selections of colors of paper so that they can make choices. Right now the children's supplies are in individual boxes, but normally they are out on the shelf, and the children are allowed to pick what activities they need. And we do what we call process art, so that the child can determine what will work. So they are doing a collage. They can decide on if they need the glue stick, the liquid glue, tape, staples to hold their project together. Again, we have Play-Doh in this area. We have, letter stampers. We have letters and numerals throughout the room. So the children learn their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. And a lot of different types of art. Paint, drawing, 3D art, and collage. So you'll find a lot of different types of materials. We try not to give children any samples, because then the children copy what we do, and we want them to express themselves. Normally we have sand and water in here. This is an area that's very calming to children, and children can experiment with volume, so they identify how many cups of water or sand will fill up a bucket. They also pretend to be cooking or mad scientists and do all kinds of creations in sand and water. The thing with sand and water is you need to keep an eye on the floor, because it will spill out on the floor and become slippery. This is the writing center, where children can write notes or anything else. There is the word wall beside it, and the children will get the words from the unit that they are working on from the word wall and be able to copy them or try to copy them into one of their activities. There's usually a variety of things to write with and a variety of things to write on. So old cards or things that you don't want are a great addition to the writing center. And that is right next to our library area. Library area is supposed to be calm and cozy and in a quiet space, so that children who are reading will not be interrupted. There is a variety of books. We have fiction books, nonfiction books, books that go with our unit, books that go with the season. So children have plenty of books to choose from. There's also puppets and other things that extend language in this area. This is always a nice and cozy place to come with a child. This is the music area. We have several instruments that children can work with to determine the sounds that they make, how they make them louder, how they make them softer, how to go faster, how to go slower. 2 children are only allowed in this area because it can get very noisy. We also have things that you can use to dance with in this area. So children are free to play music and dance with streamers and other things in this room. The last area is manipulatives, or toys and games. This is where you're going to find the Legos and the bristle blocks. They are generally in bins, and all the bins are labeled, and those labels then match the ones on the shelf so that children can set them back where they belong. You're going to find all kinds of construction toys here, also puzzles, and anything that strengthens the small muscles of their fingers, so that those are the last muscles to develop, and we are working on strengthening writing and dressing skills and those kinds of things. And the last area is the cozy corner, or in this case the cozy cave, where children can come down and be alone and work to calm their body and get some relief from all of the busyness of the classroom. So every classroom has all of these interest centers located in their room. They are divided normally by shelving units and identified by the carpets on the floor as to where children can play. Also, if you're wondering how to know how many children to allow in a center, the center signs will help you by identifying the Velcro dots and how many name tags will fit on that particular center sheet. You do need to be careful though and still pay attention to who is in the classroom, because sometimes near spring some of the older children figure out that you can take someone else's name tag off and put yours on, and then they will kick out the person who they took off. So you still need to keep somewhat of an eye on who is in what area. Teachers also need to be walking around the classroom, working with small groups and spending a little time trying to get to each area. We did not talk about the technology area. Only 1 child is allowed to use the iPad at a time. So those are the interest areas, and that is used during choice time. Choice time is generally the longest portion of the day. It is 1 hour for uninterrupted playtime, and children can free flow between the different centers. Most children will probably visit 3 to 4 centers throughout that hour. Other children will spend the whole entire time. I know there's always a question about what if a child always selects the same interest center to play in, and the teachers who pick those areas will pick other children first to give them a chance to get into that area, and then when it is full, go to the child who always picks that area. They will eventually probably get there during that hour time, but they at least have to experience another center for the first few minutes. For most children, they can free flow. Some children will have a timer to help them stay and expand their focus and attention to to projects. But the teachers will tell you who has the timers. Also, the schedule is somewhat dictated by meals and things that have to happen. Obviously, greeting is when you come into the center. Teachers always try to say hello to every child and family and make them feel comfortable and make for an easier transition into the morning. Also, when you greet children, you need to do a little head-to-toe check on that child so that you can identify if a child is coming in with any bruises. You might want to talk to the family about how they got that bruise, or know that it didn't happen here at school. Also, you may have children coming in with green snotty noses and coughing and sneezing all over the place. You might say to the parent before they leave that you want to take their temperature to see if they should stay. So greetings are very important part of the morning. Usually they come in to the center then and wash their hands, and then either tabletop or some other quiet activity till everyone arrives. Circle time or group time is then usually a time when you welcome the day. There's usually a song that starts the morning that signals that school is starting for the day. We go over our schedule and anything that may be changing in routine for that time. We do take advantage of various programming from Geisinger, and if parents want to do something with the children, like bring in the fire truck, we certainly make arrangements for that to happen. And sometimes we need to prepare children for those changes that are coming up. Also, we encourage children to be part of the community by giving them each a job to do for that day, and going over some of the things that we want to discuss as part of our curriculum topic. Meal times are definitely arranged by contract. So meal times must happen at a certain time. Of course, we want to serve food when it's hot. So meal times will be dictated by the program. And we do serve breakfast and lunch. And we expect the staff to be sitting down with the children, eating the same meals as the children, and talking to the children about, anything they want to talk about. Or we can talk about differences in foods that we are eating, good nutrition, anything that might work into shapes or other activities that we help children learn. There's also always literacy activities. There is always at least one read aloud done in the classroom, and that the teacher reads a story to the children, identifying new vocabulary words, talking about the curriculum, that topic that we are working on at that point, identifying letters, identifying that we read from left to right and front to back, those kinds of things. We also always have a message time where the teacher and the children write a message and then work on identifying letters. Music and movement is part of our active time. It combines with outdoor time to make for an hour of active heart increasing movement. So there's a lot of dancing at that time and a lot of moving toward music and getting following directions and getting that heart rate up. Outdoor time is a time where children again are allowed to pick what they would like to do. Some teachers do have some activities planned, so some games like red light, green light, Mr. Fox, it's lunchtime, and those kinds of games we play outdoors. Others would prefer to play on the climber. There is a shed full of toys that you can bring out and increase the variety of skills, gross motor skills that are derived during that time. Teachers at this point are working with children, making them feel comfortable learning a new skill, practicing skills, and playing with the children. All of our playgrounds are fenced in, so we do have some safety there, but you have to make sure that there is no one climbing up the fence. We also bring out our first aid kit every time, and we also bring water and cups out onto the playground for children to drink whenever they need to. Quiet time is offered in our 6-hour classrooms, and that is a time when children may pick to nap. We have their mats. They are definitely given that option, and some children do fall asleep during that time. Other children begin to work on other academic skills with teachers in a quiet manner. So there's things on the tabletop, and teachers and assistant teachers are working to increase some academic skills. As I said, choice time is our longest portion of the day. Generally, the teachers have to plan for 75 minutes of time. 60 of those minutes are uninterrupted playtime for each child to pick and choose where they would like to go. And you have seen the interest areas that they can choose from, and the materials will rotate as children's interests and skills develop. Small group time is usually held at the beginning and end of choice time, where the teacher will pick several children to work with and work on a skill that they may need and individualize some time for those children to gain the skills that they need. So each child must be selected at least one time a week to participate in a small group time, but others may be selected more often depending on how the skills that they're working on. There is a lesson plan that is handed in a week before the lesson is taught, so that we can go through it to make sure that we're meeting the children's needs. But lesson plans are guides for the day. So if something isn't working, we go on to something else. So that book that you thought was going to be so exciting is not making it with the kids today. I would not read it until the end of the book, because the children will be rolling around on the ground, poking each other. I would give it a quick ending and put it away and try it another day. The bear walked across the playground. Well, there goes your lesson plan, because now all we want to talk about is the bear or the first snow flurry. Sometimes you need to change the lesson plan to go with what's going on. Or the other thing could happen is you were doing an activity and everyone got so engrossed they didn't want to leave it, so you extended that time. So lesson plans are a guide, and as long as there's a good reason to change the lesson plan, we will change if we need to. Wait time is disastrous for teachers. If you leave children too long, they will find a time to busy themselves. Children have a limited attention span of about 10 to 15 minutes at this age. And those children who got to carpet first because they cleaned up fast, their time is already clicking. So you want to make sure that you have someone on the carpet to meet them and to get them involved in something that you want them to be involved in, so that they are being productive and waiting for the other children to hurry up. Sometimes that activity will also help some of those children hurry up. You want to make sure that if you are going to be in charge of the painting activity, that you have the paint ready to go, so that children aren't waiting at the easel for you. On the other hand, I wouldn't put it at the easel, because the easels are usually right next to the bathroom because of the water, and children going by will take the brush and paint every time. So I would put that paint someplace where I could grab it fast, but I would not always have things out right where they're supposed to be at that moment. But just like home, if children are too quiet, you should also check on them. So you want to make sure that you are keeping a good eye and keeping children busy in productive ways. How are classroom decisions made? First off, we follow the positive behavior intervention support philosophy. That means we catch children being good. We also try to help them learn from their mistakes. So if they take a toy from a child, we try to help them identify ways that they can handle this situation the next time it should arise. You will find posted around the room things like the solution kit, which will give children ideas on how to handle issues so that they can learn eventually to solve issues by themselves. We also follow the curriculum. The curriculum is pretty scripted, so that you can identify what's coming up next and also ask the proper questions at that particular time to encourage thinking. We also look at children's individual needs. We have children who have documented needs where their individual education plan outlines the types of educational opportunities that they need. And then we also know that children who are going to kindergarten need certain opportunities as well, as outlined by the Pennsylvania Early Learning Standards. We also look at children's interests. And children's interests may change throughout the day. That first snow flurry will always cause children to become interested in weather and snow. And then we look at the teacher's knowledge of child development. We know that children develop in a sequence. So if we went around the room today and talked about how all your children learn to walk, we would see that there was a certain progression that occurred. So that is the way most learning occurs, and we have to identify where that child is along that sequence and plan for the next step. And then Head Start has early learning standards. Pennsylvania has early learning standards, and we make sure that we are incorporating all of those into our lesson plans. And then we look at how children learn. And we know that some children learn by hearing, some children learn by visual, and some people need to be working on something within their hands, so or kinesthetic. Also, Gardner has identified others ways that children learn. Some children learn through music, some children learn by going outside, some children learn by sports. So we look at the way children learn and try to identify how each child learns and provide that opportunity for each child. And then NAEYC, which is the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and STARS, which is the State Quality Assurance, also identify the standards which operate our classroom.